Hey everyone, it's Ed40. I ordinarily make monotype hardcore Nuzlocke videos, with a couple exceptions, but I wanted to introduce some new kinds of hardcore Nuzlockes to my channel. I'm still going to be making a lot more monotypes if you prefer that, but I had a couple ideas for Nuzlockes that would give me more diversity that sometimes feels lacking in these challenges. In the meantime, however, I wanted to do this series. I thought it'd be kinda nice to just try a straight hardcore Nuzlocke of each of the main-ish series games, except for the Let's Go ones, or at least each one with a distinct story. And maybe add a little about my thoughts and relationships to the games. But then, a little bit ago, Flygon HG released his snaplock of the Gen 4 remakes, and that idea felt really compelling to me. I think a lot of straight Nuzlocks can get kinda bland, especially in a game like FireRed. So a snaplock where half the Pokédex is gone felt like a great twist to add in, and make the playthroughs a little more flavorful. So I decided I was gonna make this into a snaplock series. But instead of having people vote on who'd be ineligible for me to use like Dr. HG did, my channel's not that big, so I decided to do what I've done for choosing my runs in the past, and randomize who's in and who's out. I gave myself a few rules for this. No starters, no legendaries, no pseudo-legendaries, and no Gyarados, who also has the potential to be a massive sweeper. I decided to do this in FireRed, so after cutting the total number of Gen 1 Pokemon lines in half, I took those Pokemon out plus any Trade or Leaf Green exclusives, leaving me with a total of 25 Pokemon. So here's my list. I can't evolve Onyx, Graveler, Scyther, or Porygon, and some of these Pokemon are on the same routes, so I won't be able to catch the max, but here are my options. I'll also put them in the description so you can follow along. But with that, let's get into the rules. They're going to be in the description too, but some key ones for reference are no items in battle outside of held items, battle mode on set, if a Pokemon faints, it can no longer be used in battle, and there are level caps equal to a gym leader or league member's ace. With that out of the way, let's begin. I gave my rival a Squirtle because I think it's going to be the hardest against my team. The difference between how Professor Oak treats me and his grandson is so wild. He just doesn't care about him at all. I wonder if he'd do the same to me if he wasn't canonically into my mom. I got into Pokemon when I was 6, around the time Ruby and Sapphire came out. Just about every kid I knew was obsessed, but my parents were old school and wouldn't let me play video games because they thought they'd rot my brain. So for a couple of years, I got into all of Pokemon but the video games, which I could only watch my friends play. I went to a camp that had a social structure essentially built around the Pokemon games, so while I knew them intimately, I couldn't play them myself. And by the time I was 8, this was starting to become a big problem, because as the only kid without a Game Boy, I started to be left out of stuff. So I wound up going all out to my parents, trying to convince them to let me get a Game Boy in the same way other kids tried to convince their parents to get them dogs. Which I also did, by the way. And on my 9th birthday, my mom handed me 2 boxes. The first had FireRed, and I was so disappointed. I think I thought she thought it was just Pokemon cards, until I opened the second box. It was an actual Game Boy SP! My mind was blown. There's footage of me on some old camera totally freaking out and shouting it was the best day of my life over and over. And honestly, it's embarrassing to say, but it's still one of my fondest memories nearly 17 years later. After delivering the parcel to Oak, I get the Pokédex and my run can finally begin. On Route 1, I catch my official starter of the run. A Pidgey I named Red. Red has a lonely nature, plus attack and minus defense, which is pretty solid. But, I forgot to heal, and she faints in my first battle with her, ending attempt 1. Let's try that again. Red 2 has a neutral quirky nature, which is also pretty good. I can catch my second Pokemon right after this on Route 22, a Spearow I named Blue. Blue has a neutral hardy nature, so I'm happy. I have my first real battle with my rival here. I didn't even know this battle existed for years, I'm embarrassed to say. I lead with Red, who takes Pidgeot out with 3 gusts, leveling him up to 11. I then switch to Blue on the Squirtle, who takes him out with a bunch of pecks, getting taken to half in the process. All in all, pretty easy. Because both my birds are strong against bug types, Viridian Forest is a breeze to get through. Spearow's always been one of my least favorite Pokemon. As I've got older, I realized it's better optimized than the Pidgey line, but first of all, Ash had a Pidgeotto, and second, Fearow's deeply slow leveling always turned my games into grinding sessions. Other than maybe the first time I played FireRed, the day I got it, where I just went around roughly trying to catch Ash's Pokemon and not even putting my Game Boy down for hours. I always preferred leveling up my team evenly so that everyone could participate. It felt way more fun that way. And so Spearow's counterintuitively slow, medium-fast growth rate was always so frustrating to have to use. I tried to avoid them whenever I could. Doduo was my favorite Gen 1 bird line as a result, but that's all I can do before Brock. I'm coming into him with just 2 physical flying types. Now, I know this is doable because Sylph Spectre did a flying type monologue of FireRed a while back, but it might take a few attempts. While I think Roxanne is the most hit-or-miss first gym leader in terms of difficulty, Brock isn't that far behind. Unless you catch a Mankey, you're not really in a great spot to beat him if you're not using starters. and with 2 flying types, this could really take me a while. I do basically the same thing Sylph did and set up Sand Attack. I get really lucky with Red not getting hit in the process. Then when Geodude's at -6 accuracy, I switch to Blue. Blue starts growling until Geodude gets to -6 attack. It's time to go. I get some frankly awful luck with Fury attacks, but the idea is that given Geodude's high defense, a multi-hit move is my best bet to win. When Geodude's in the red, I take my barely damaged Blue out and switch back into red. Red needs to hit 4 gusts to get the job done, which seemed fine, but Geodude hits Tackle once, twice, and then crits to take red to half health. Now that he's fainted, red and blue level up to 15, but Onyx could be a big problem, especially considering he has a rock move. I need some luck here. I start my Sand Attack setup, and Onyx doesn't connect with Rock Tomb. The second one's free too. This is going great, I just have 2 to go. But after I use my 5th, Rock Tomb connects, and crits to KO red. I've just gotta hope that was lucky enough. I send out blue and immediately start growling, thankfully getting Onyx to -6 without taking any damage. I then switch to Leer to make sure Fury Attack might hit hard at least. As I start Fury Attacking though, Onyx lands Bind. This could be really bad, considering he's got a consistent way to deal damage now. But Blue's an absolute champ, and doesn't miss a single Fury Attack to get the KO and win. He's pretty battered, but that's one strong bird. I can't believe I did that on my first time against Brock though. I was convinced it was going to take at least 4 attempts. And now, after I get the running shoes, I can get my next 2 encounters right here. There are 3 different Pokemon I can catch on Route 3, both Nidorans and Jigglypuff. I'd be happy with any of these, but the one I get is a male Nidoran I named Green. Green has a bold nature, plus defense and -attack, which is pretty bad for him, but it's such a great evolutionary line anyways, especially considering he has Poison Point. This means we won't be able to catch Jigglypuff, which is the second run where that's happened. Now, in Mount Moon, I'm guaranteed a Geodude here, who I catch and name Yellow. Yellow has a gentle nature, plus special defense and -defense, which is solidly mixed. And while I'm in Mount Moon, Green evolves into a Nidorino, and the added strength is really appreciated here. I've always preferred the Kabuto line to the Ammonite line. I know Lord Helix is the meme and everything, but Kabutops is fast, hits hard, and is easier to use, and just looks way cooler than Omastar. So I'm glad I can pick the Dumb Fossil up here. I teach Yellow Mega Punch after leaving the cave, and then mosey on over to Cerulean. There isn't much I can do here right now, because I can't move on to Route 5 yet, and I'm definitely not ready to take on Misty, so that just leaves Rival 2. I lead with Blue, but switch Yellow in, and a couple Rock Throws get rid of his Pidgeot. Even though she misses once, Pidgeot never uses Sand Attack, so I got lucky here. Once he's down, my rival sends out Squirtle. I decide to go into Green, and while Water Gun is doing way more damage than I'd like, and Double Kick is doing way less, I'm slowly able to whittle Squirtle down. After he gets Green just over half, he just starts going for Withdraw, and after a lucky crit, one more Double Kick KOs. And with that, the rest of the fight is essentially free. I swap into Blue, and Fury Attack gets rid of Abra and Rattata without too much trouble. Thanks to my team diversity, the Nugget Bridge is really easy, even as my team is kinda underleveled. But it's all just a front to recruit people into Team Rocket. They shouldn't be so open about it though. What if I was a Fed? Well, I beat the recruiter, and I'm rewarded by getting the chance to fight Camper Shane, on whom Blue gets to level 20 and evolves into a beastly Fearow. I'm really tempted to teach Yellow Self-Destruct, but tragically I decide against it. I make it to Bill's house, the furthest I ever got my first time playing. I accidentally turned my Game Boy off without saving and lost my entire file. I was so bummed. As I've gotten older, I increasingly appreciate Bill's extended fly reference. It's so memorable and definitely more fun than the Jeff Goldblum movie. And now with my entire team at level 21, it's time for Misty. If I had to make a list of hardest gym leaders ever, Misty's absolutely cracking my top 5. Her Starmie's terrifying in the early game, only maybe behind Gardenia's Roserade. If you don't have a Pokemon who can hit for super effective damage, or at least resist, good luck. Well, I don't have either, so this is gonna be tough. I spend a while planning for this fight before realizing what I need to do. I head in with Blue and immediately one-hit Staryu with Secret Power, which I taught just for this fight. That's incredible. But now, Starmie's out. They outspeed, which I wasn't expecting, and Water Pulse does so much. But no confusion, and now Blue can respond. Secret Power connects and looks like it's doing half, but it also paralyzes. That's so clutch. I knew it was a possibility, but I really didn't expect it. But this makes things way better. Now Blue outspeeds, and Secret Power just doesn't KO. But Starmie's paralyzed. So next turn, Misty heals, but another Secret Power brings them back under half. One more gets us badge number 2. That paralysis definitely mattered. If I hadn't gotten it, Water Pulse would have probably taken blue to the red, and I'd get an extra turn to respond and bring Starmie under half if blue had avoided confusion. But I'd have to switch, and I'm not convinced green could have finished Starmie off, even with like Thief or something. So I guess that's 2 luck-based gym battles in a row. Thankfully, Surge is almost anything but. En route to him, I make a couple new friends. First, I catch a Meowth I named Goldenrod on Route 5. Shortly after that, I give Green a Moonstone to evolve him into a Nidoking. Finally, I catch a Drowsy I named Saffron on Route 11. Saffron has an incredible modest nature, plus special attack and minus attack, so I'm definitely good to go. I don't even need to do that much grinding for Surge, because Yellow and Green render most of his attacks useless anyways. I lead with Yellow, who instantly gets rid of Voltorb with Magnitude. They were probably the biggest threat here, so I'm free now. Pikachu sets up Double Team, and Magnitude misses, which is annoying but not awful at least. One more Double Team, and Magnitude connects to one-ish shot. Last up is Raichu, who uses Double Team too, but Magnitude connects. But it doesn't KO. Surge heals, and it's time for another Magnitude. My giant boulder won't let this rat get out of her way though, so third badge is down. I quickly make my way onto Route 10, where I catch a Voltorb of my own I name Mahogany. Mahogany has a solid Lax nature, but their IVs are terrible. Seriously, everything but special attack is in the single digits, and speed is close to 0. Why even have a Voltorb if not for speed? And now we're entering my least favorite stretch of the game. From Rock Tunnel roughly through the mansion, this game's amorphousness can sometimes turn it into a bit of a slog. One of the reasons this game can really give you this feeling is because it's a weirdly status-heavy game, right? You've got a lot of Pokemon who can either poison or paralyze in the mid-game, so healing items become direly necessary. Rock Tunnel in some ways is the worst of this. I can't tell you how many times getting my team brutalized and all statused up and forced to go to the Pokemon Center broke me growing up. It's just a giant linear labyrinth. At least this time, I get an Onyx named Pewter, who I hope I'll never have to use. Yellow thankfully evolves, and I move on. I get a little bit more training in on Route 8 to pick up some money, and while I do that, Saffron evolves into Hypno. But my high from that is quickly erased when I take on Biker Ricardo. I lead with Goldenrod, who's doing a good chunk of damage with Bite, but is coughing crits with Sludge, taking Goldenrod to 4 HP, and she's poisoned, so she just effectively got 1 hit. That's so sad. I was hoping to use her as a speedy attacker down the road, but I guess I won't get the chance to now. And while, in general, this is my least favorite stretch of the game, Celadon City is always a blast. There's so much to do here, from stocking up on items to getting the tea to gambling. While I can't get the Eevee available here, I have access to 2 other Pokemon. 3 if you count the Grimer you can fish up, but I won't. In the game corner, I can either get a Scyther or a Porygon. Both would be nice additions, and this is the only place I can get a Porygon. But I'm actually going to get a Scyther here instead. They're a powerful Pokemon with some solid coverage, and more importantly, they're perfect for Erica. I appropriately named my Scyther Celadon. Celadon has a pretty bad plus special attack minus special defense rash nature, but what a great Pokemon overall. Because I beat up everyone on Route 8 and in Erica's gym and got Fly, and all my Pokemon are still 2 levels under the cap, I decide to start the Team Rocket hideout. It's definitely a little tedious, but I've always been really amused by it. Just having the button to your secret evil lair being right in the middle of a super accessible casino is so silly. And honestly, I'm of the mindset that Pokemon as a franchise relies way too much on evil teams, with only about 2.5 gens using them well, but I find Team Rocket really charming. Like, yeah, they're just a crime org, and they don't have big evil plans, so the Kanto games don't have as much of a story as, like, Black and White, but they're still practical and fun in their own low-stakes way. And I essentially clear out Team Rocket before any of my team reaches level 29, so I guess I'll do Giovanni. This battle was somewhat worryingly hard. Nothing too out there, but Onyx only gets 2 hit with Green's double kick thanks to a crit, and Rhyhorn doesn't even get 2 hit. Green falls under half as a result, so I have to switch to Yellow on Kangaskhan. But after 2 bites send Yellow to half, a Magnitude 4 barely does anything, and then I thankfully get a stronger one, but Kangaskhan gets Yellow into the red, so it's just not safe to stay in. I switch to Celadon, who takes a soft bite, and then 2 wing attacks are enough to get the KO. That's probably not a good sign. At least I got the Sylph Scope, but that's essentially all I can do before Erica. And with all that said, it's not like Erica's hard. Because I need a Pokemon with Cut, I don't bring in Yellow, but it's not like she'd be helpful here anyways. I don't really want to use berries for this fight because they're so limited, so even though I think this will get real statusy, this feels safer long term. I lead with Celadon, who hits a hard wing attack to bring Victory Bell to the red, but gets paralyzed instantly. See what I mean? I know Erica's gonna heal, but Celadon doesn't freeze up, and another takes Victory Bell right back. And with one final hit after Acid, Victory Bell's down. Tingle is out now, and it's not too bad that Celadon freezes up here as she just sets up Ingrain, and even though Constrict crits, Wing Attack one hit, leveling Celadon up to 29. And now it's just Vileplume, who spams Acid. It's doing a little more than I'd like, and after a couple send Celadon to 28 HP, I'm worried about a crit. Wing Attack gets Vileplume to the red, so anticipating a heal, I swap into blue. But she actually just goes for Acid again, and with one more secret power, Erica's toast. It actually crit 2 to add extra insult. And with that, we're on to Rival 4. He's always pretty easy, though his "at least I can make them faint" line always kills me. I lead with yellow. Pidgeot outspeeds with Quick Attack, and Rock Throw doesn't quite kill, so he uses Gust right after, and another gets the job done. Wartortle's out, and so I switch to Mahogany on a withdraw. After a couple sparks, Wartortle's down, but Mahogany took some damage in the process, so I want to switch. I go back into yellow as Growlithe uses Ember, but we outspeed somehow and Magnitude KOs. Execute is in now, and I go into blue as Hypnosis misses. Fly one hit, and then I go into Saffron on Kadabra, who hits Kinesis, but Disable doesn't connect, and a couple headbutts get the job done. This opens up a new encounter for me, so I run up and catch a Cubone I name Lavender. She has a solidly neutral hardy nature, and she'll be a great backup if anything happens to yellow or green. Foreshadowing. And shortly after, Mahogany evolves into an Electrode. I love how all the channelers in here are possessed, by the way. It's such a cool touch, though it definitely makes owning a Ghastly sound way scarier. I put the only non-ghost ghost in this series to rest, and then get the Pokey Flute from Mr. Fuji. It's probably my favorite item in any Pokemon game. When I learned I could use it in battle, it was just an absolute game changer. After getting through Snorlax, I get a deeply important item, the Super Rod. Now, I thought I could get Krabby with the Super Rod here, but that's actually only true in Leaf Green, so I'm gonna need to come back with the Good Rod later. But in the meantime, I fly to Vermilion and fish up a Shelder I named Violet. Violet has a calm nature, plus special defense and minus attack, which isn't bad, and the deeply useful Shell Armor ability, so I think I'm gonna swap him in for yellow. I run to Fuchsia and pick up the Good Rod, and while I'm here, I also fish up a Goldeen I named Azalea. He has an impish nature, plus defense and minus special attack, which is kinda blah. At least I can finally go back to Route 12 and pick up a Krabby I awkwardly named Cherry Grove. I love Krabby. They're not the best pre-physical special split, but after that, bopping enemies with Crabhammer is just a delight. Now that the game's opened up though, I need to figure out what I'm gonna do next. Now, I can get one of 5 different Safari Zone encounters, but I'd like to save that for much later, because I can guarantee a couple of those from the Sevi Islands. That said, I do actually want to go through it so I can pick up Surf for Violet. I was feeling bored on the day I recorded this part, so I just decided I'd kill a couple hours by getting enough money to buy Ice Beam from the Game Corner. I did this by grinding up at the Sylph Company. I've joked about them before, but it's really remarkable how many scientists defected from them. It speaks so poorly of them as a company. I clear out the first 9 floors, and now not only can I buy Ice Beam, but I can also use my Water Stone to evolve Violet into a Cloyster. I don't finish Sylph Co., but take on all the trainers there who don't require the card key, as well as the ones in the dojo, on Cycling Road, and the routes between Fuchsia and Lavender. This leaves my team at level 37. I don't really want to keep grinding, so I'm just taking on Koga now. I already know this is doable, because I literally did it in my Psychic-type Hardcore Nuzlocke of Red, but Saffron's gonna sweep here. I actually get pretty lucky this fight. After coughing 1 falls to Psychic, a second leaves Muck around half. Muck responds with the Toxic, and I'm thinking I should have just given Saffron a Pecha Berry, but it misses! So 1 more KOs, another takes out coughing 2, and then it's just wheezing. Psychic leaves him on a Sliver, and he hits a Smoke Screen. Not the worst, but that's not great. Koga heals, but if I don't want to have accuracy problems, I'll need to take care of this fast. And a crit will do! 5th badge is ours. I'm gonna head back to Sylph, but there are a couple stops to make first. Just south of Fuchsia, I can pick up a Tentacruel I named Cyanide, and then a Psyduck I named Cerulean in the Seafoam Islands. I don't need either right now, but they're nice to have as backups. And now, it's Rival 5 time. I think this was actually a mistake, but I didn't want to grind anywhere else, so I went in underleveled. I lead with Violet, and set up a couple layers of spikes as Pidgeot keeps hitting Wing Attack. It's doing more than I'd like, but after the second sends him to around half, Ice Beam KOs. The rival misplays and sends out Exeggutor, who goes down to another. Alakazam is in now, and uses Future Sight. After Surf sends him to a third, I decide to switch Mahogany in, as Alakazam just uses Future Sight again? Okay. Spark KOs, and then Growlithe comes in. Future Sight connects, taking them around half. I decide to attack anyways, and land Spark to do around 2/3. But Growlithe uses Flame Wheel. I was using Bulbapedia for this, so I thought he only had Ember, but it's actually Flame Wheel, so I got alarmed. But they survive in the red, and could finish Growlithe off with a Spark. It's just Blastoise now, so I switch into Saffron on a bite. Not ideal. Psychic isn't doing much, and Blastoise brings him under half with another bite. Okay, this really isn't gonna work. I've got to Paralyze and then switch. After a Protect, this works, and then I go into Celadon. But Water Gun's doing a third here, so this could get dicey. I decide to try with Slash, and it's just not doing enough. I've got one last attack here, and that's also not enough. Blastoise freezes up. One more chance! I use Slash, and it crits for the win! I really needed that. At least Giovanni's gonna be way easier. The first 3 Pokemon here I can just sweep with Green. He takes some chip damage here and there, but Nidorino goes down in a couple Rock Slides. And then Rhyhorn and Kangaskhan go down to a few Double Kicks. They both get Poison too, making it a little bit easier. And now it's just Nidoqueen. Green still has a lot of health, so I'll get a few turns of chip damage in with Thrash and then switch. Thrash isn't doing a ton of damage for a few reasons, but Nidoqueen just goes for Tail Whip. Next she goes for Double Kick, which isn't doing too much, unless it crits. I think Green should be able to survive another attack though, but she uses Body Slam, and thanks to the 2 Tail Whips Green accrued, he's going straight to the Shadow Realm. That was a misplay. I'm so sorry, Green. Now I bring in Violet, and Surf does the job. Well, that's rough, but at least Sabrina's gym is open now. I get Yellow back into my party and do a little more grinding on Route 21 before taking her on. I think Celadon can sweep Sabrina's team, but I'm not sure. At least Slash takes out Kadabra, and Wing Attack takes out Venomoth. I don't think Mr. Mime can do much, so I use Swords Dance. He uses Psybeam, and it crits! Celadon's now at a third, but no confusion. So let's see how this goes. Slash KOs Mr. Mime. We outspeed Alakazam, and then Slash KOs her too. Phew. That makes my life way easier. In Cinnabar, I can pick up 2 new Pokemon. A Kabuto from the Dome Fossil I got, who I named Newbark, and a Grimer I catch in Cinnabar Mansion named Fuchsia. After my Dark-type run in Sun, the Grimer line's really grown on me, so I decide she'll be my first up if anyone faints now. I pick up the secret key, and wow, this gym just became fully serviced fast. But actually, just as I go to fight Blaine, I remember another Pokemon I can pick up. I fly over to the random Pokemon Center next to Rock Tunnel. Really wish they had more of these in the series. And I surf down to the power plant, where after some running around, I find and catch an Electabuzz I named Vermilion. He has a neutral docile nature, and I actually think I'm going to use him instead of Mahogany. But now it's time for Blaine. And if I plan it out right, Yellow should be able to roll all over his whole team. However, I did not plan it out right. I lead Yellow. Growlithe's Intimidate hits, and Earthquake KOs anyways. Now Blaine sends an Arcanine, and here's where I realized I messed up. Well, sorta. I should have switched Yellow in on the Growlithe so she'd only take 1 Intimidate. I definitely don't think Earthquake will KO with 2. I click it, Arcanine outspeeds, and Fire Blast does just under half. Oh no, Earthquake is doing just over half, but that's not enough. I switch to Violet because he's a water type, but Fire isn't resisted, and a Fire Blast just tears through him. I wasn't expecting that, and I panickedly send out Yellow again, and, well, it turns out Fire Blast was a range, because she's just a pile of lava now. This is bad. I switch Saffron in, and Fire Blast is doing around half, and burns. Psychic leaves Arcanine on a sliver. I try again as Blaine heals, and get the drop, but this isn't gonna work. So I guess it's time for Vermilion to make his battle debut. Arcanine uses Takedown and activates Static. Now a Thunderbolt finally takes him out. Ponyta's in now, and this doesn't quite repeat. Fire Blast hits, and now Vermilion can't sweep. Blaine heals again, but a Thunderbolt crits for the KO. It's just Rapidash left. I need to switch Vermilion out, and given that Blue is the only Pokemon left with full health who's not weak to fire, he's up! But Fire Blast does over half. I don't have anything resembling a plan at this point, so I've got to stay in with Blue and do whatever damage I can. I hit Secret Power hoping for a status, but then Rapidash misses Fire Blast! That just saved us. One more Secret Power gets me the win. It was a massacre though. I think I'm one of only a few people to ever have trouble with Blaine. After some digging, I decide to bring Cyanwood the Tentacruel and Lavender the Cubone along. I know I just said a couple minutes ago that I was going to take Grimer next, but she can't learn Surf, and I'm going to need that for the Sevi Islands. Plus, Tentacruel has better synergy for my team now anyways. Bill takes me over to the island. I never loved the full storyline here, but the pre-post game stuff was always really charming to me, like a fun little side adventure. Who doesn't love stopping a biker gang in a random Hypno? Besides, I can get 2 encounters here. On Kindle Road, Ponyta's the most common Pokemon on the route by a good chunk, but after searching for like 20 minutes, I still can't find one. Just as I think I'm in the wrong place or something, I stumble into a Rapidash I catch and name Cinnabar. Okay. In Berry Forest, I also get an Exeggutor named Viridian with my Master Ball. I then save Lostel and head back to Kanto. And now that I've caught Viridian, it's time for my Safari Zone encounter, the last of the game. I've been using the Safari Zone a ton recently, and I guess this isn't really an exception. I have 3 Pokemon left on my list who are now all Safari Zone exclusives. Rhyhorn, Nidorina, and Chansey. I think any of these could be useful, so I decided to just go to the areas they all are first. That's the entrance in Area 2. If I can't get one in either of those places, then Areas 1 and 3 only have Nidorina. After the Rhyhorn I encounter in the entrance breaks out of the first ball I throw and then flees, I max Repel and head to Area 2, where I get a Nidorina who sticks around long enough for me to catch. I name her Blackthorn. She has a quiet nature, plus special attack and minus speed, which is solidly mixed, but she's definitely welcome. Thankfully, after all that, the Viridian gym is easy. Cyanwood outspeeds and just sweeps through Giovanni's entire team, one-hitting them all with Surf. So this is how Team Rocket ends, not with a bang, but with getting drowned. The real challenge here is the rival battle. It's a good time to see how his team matches up. I lead with Vermilion, who gets rid of Pidgeot with a Thunderbolt after a quick attack. My rival sends in Rhyhorn next, but I don't really want to switch into anyone, so Brick Break's gotta put in some work here. It only does around half, and Rhyhorn uses Takedown, but misses. One more gets the KO at least, but now Growlithe is in, so I swap in Cyanwood, who surfs him down. Next up is Alakazam, so I bring in Celadon on a Disable. A couple slashes get rid of him, and now Execute is in. Wing Attack leaves him on a quarter, but he paralyzes! Celadon freezes up 2 turns in a row before finally getting rid of the Eggy Tree. And now, it's just Blastoise. I want to get rid of him with Vermilion, but I've got to pivot in first. I decide to go through Saffron, which wasn't smart at all. He comes in on a Rain Dance, but then Blastoise outspeeds and bites doing a third. It's not really worthwhile to do much more, so I just paralyze him and switch again. Vermilion comes in on a bite, but bite's thankfully not doing that much. I hit a Thunderbolt, which sends Blastoise to a quarter, and he responds with a measly Water Gun. The crits! At least Blastoise can't outspeed, but ouch. 1 more KOs for the win. After making it through Victory Road, always a bit of a nightmare. I need to figure out who I'm taking to the league. I think as good as Blue's been, he shares too many weaknesses with Celadon, so I'd prefer to take someone else. After a while staring at my PC, I decide to take Blackthorn instead. I evolve her, and now this is my final team. Let's see how this goes. Lorelei isn't necessarily going to be too bad, but her Jinx might get a little thorny. I lead with Vermilion, who can take most of her team pretty easily, which is good because of my team's 3 weaknesses to Ice. Thunderbolt KOs Dugong, Cloyster drops 2, Slowbro drops after that, and now Lapras is out. Thunderbolt brings her to a quarter before her Citrus Berry, and then Surf takes Vermilion to a little above half. Thankfully, a second Thunderbolt gets the job done. Jinx is last, and I don't have any better option. So Vermilion's gonna have to take this one too. Thunderbolt does half, and then Ice Punch does another third. I've gotta hope this KOs, because this could be rough. And it does! 4 battles left. Lorelei always gave me so much trouble as a kid. I think because I always used Charizard or Venusaur, so that felt really nice. Bruno's next, and ordinarily he's pretty easy. He's not exactly hard here either, but he is a little tricky. I lead with Cyanwood, who quickly surfs both Onyxes away before Hitmonchan is in. He just goes for Sky Uppercut, barely doing anything as Surf 2 hits. Hitmonlee's next, and Surf does over half, but he uses Mega Kick, and hoo boy, that does a lot! Thankfully, Surf KOs, but I need to switch for Machamp. Blackthorn comes in as he misses Rock Tomb, but Shadow Ball's only doing a quarter. Probably less as he goes for a Bulk Up, but Earthquake sent him to half pre-Berry. Another Shadow Ball manages to send him to the right as Machamp uses Cross Chop, which crits! Blackthorn survives on 2 HP, but she's gotta go. The best option here is probably Saffron, who comes in as Bruno heals. Psychic takes Machamp back to the yellow as Cross Chop connects to do around a third. Bruno heals again, and then 2 more get us the win. Just 3 more to go. Agatha's next, and I've always been dying to know more about her weird rivalry with Oak. But this feels like it's going to be Blackthorn's time to shine. Agatha's first Gengar sets up Double Team, but Shadow Ball connects to take her under half. After Shadow Punch, the second KOs. Haunter's in now, and if Shadow Ball did that much to Gengar, I bet it'll get rid of Haunter. And I'm right. The final Gengar's in now, and uses Shadow Ball to bring Blackthorn just above half, as she responds with one of her own to activate Gengar's Citrus Berry. But next turn, Gengar hits Hypnosis. I'm not really sure what the play is here, but I wanted to get Saffron in, so what's the harm in sending him out a bit early? Apparently a good deal. Shadow Ball not only does over half, but also gets the drop. But then I remember that I taught Vermilion Psychic, so that's a perfectly workable option here. I switch him in, and Shadow Ball's doing a third. But after another, a final Psychic puts Gengar in the ground. Agatha decides to throw and sends Golbat in next. So Thunderbolt wipes her, and then I decide it's not worth it to risk Vermilion here. So I swap into Lavender, who takes a Sludge Bomb and then outspeeds to KO with Boomerang. It's just 2. Lance can be tricky, but I've just gotta hope things break right. I lead with Vermilion, who takes Gyarados out with a Thunderbolt, leading into his first Dragonair. I decide to set up Light Screen as Dragonair uses Safeguard, and now it's time to switch. After a bit of time trying to figure out who to go to, I decide on Blackthorn, who comes in on a Dragon Rage. Okay, not terrible. Ice Beam leaves Dragonair in the red, so he uses Outrage, and crits! Okay, that's not great, but now Lance can't heal. Ice Beam KOs, and then the second one is in. I don't really want to switch out on a Thunder Wave, so Blackthorn's staying in. Besides, Dragonair can't do anything too bad, right? Well, Ice Beam leaves this one in the red again, and Dragonair uses Hyper Beam, which KOs! Okay, that was my bad. I calculated the damage range right after, and even if it low-rolled, Hyper Beam would have just barely gotten the kill. I'm sorry, Blackthorn. You deserve better. After saying goodbye, it's time to get revenge. I swap into Cyanwood, and since Dragonair is still recharging, Ice Beam can just KO. Another leaves Dragonite in the red, as Wing Attack does almost half. That's way too much, but at least another Ice Beam KOs. Aerodactyl's last, and why not stay in? Well, because Hyper Beam leaves Cyanwood on 1 HP! Surf brings Aerodactyl to the red, but he has to recharge, so that's a free kill. But I thought I was gonna have a heart attack. It's time for the final rival battle. I didn't get this far until the third time I played FireRed. After finally getting to play it myself, I didn't want it to end, so I just kept resetting until I finally bit the bullet and took him on. I was so nervous when I started the battle, and the sense of accomplishment I felt after beating him was almost unparalleled. This is a tough fight, and I'm honestly feeling a little similar entering into it this time. Let's see how it goes. I lead with Vermilion. Thunderbolt fries Pidgeot up good, and now Rhydon's in. No big, it's probably going for Earthquake, so I'll just switch to Celadon. And I was right! Now I go into Lavender as he hits Rock Tomb. He goes for Earthquake, and wow, that did a ton. I thought Marowak was supposed to be a defensive tank. And of course Boomerang gets the only miss of the run right here. Well, I guess I'll switch back to Celadon. Get predicted! I don't know who to go into now. Maybe Saffron? He takes a Rock Tomb on the switch-in, but outspeeds to land Hypnosis. That's clutch. I switch to Cyanwood now, and Surf gets him out of there. Alakazam's up, so let's do Saffron again. Psychic does 30 HP, and an Oran Berry brings him back over half. After another, Headbutt does a quarter. Psychic brings him to the red, but now Alakazam's at half. Saffron's not going to be able to do much more here, so I need to take a risk. Psychic brings him all the way to 6 HP, and then I land Hypnosis. That's another clutch Hypnosis! Celadon's up now, and Slash gets the kill. Now it's Arcanine, so I just go into Cyanwood on a Flamethrower. After Extreme Speed brings him just over half, Surf brings Arcanine to the red as the rival heals. We're in a bit of a healing loop here, and he uses 3 full restores before hitting Extreme Speed to bring Cyanwood to a quarter pre-Citrus Berry. At least Surf KOs. Exeggutor is in now, so I go back to Celadon on a missed Egg Bomb. I hit Wing Attack, and it crits to KO! It's just Blastoise left. Slash is doing like an 8th as Blastoise hits Rain Dance. I decide to just chip as much as I can, but Hydro Pump just straight up one-hits. Rest well, Celadon. You were so good. And with your sacrifice, I can bring Vermilion in. With one Thunderbolt, Blastoise is felled, and we've beaten the champion and the game. And that's it! I have to admit that even though it's a little bit corny, I always have serious nostalgia for Oak bullying his grandson in the end. He's a terrible grandpa, but I'm glad he helped me out so much. This was a really fun run for me, at least. It was surprisingly death-heavy, though. I'm glad we made it in the end, but there were some real thorns in the league, and even more embarrassingly, Blaine. It was fun using a team that I never really got to use, or see in FireRed runs. I'd basically never used Marowak before, and I realized I liked Boomerang way more than I thought, even though it picked the worst time to miss. I had a pretty similar experience with Scyther and Electabuzz. Both were really awesome Pokemon, so I loved how much power they gave me throughout. Overall, having more diversity in my Pokemon gave me a lot of different ways to build a team. And while the middle of the run was a bit of a slog, one of the reasons why the Kanto games tend to be in my bottom half of games to play through, there's nothing like a wave of deaths in quick succession to pick things up a bit. And that's a wrap. I hope you liked this video. I know it's a little different in tone, but hopefully you enjoyed my Gen 3 nostalgia. I'm gonna do one of these for each main-ish line game in the series, so I'm sorry in advance if this isn't your thing. At least if it's not, there's only a finite amount of Pokemon games. But if you're so inclined, please feel free to give a like or subscribe to my channel. If you have any suggestions or things you'd like to see me do, please feel free to leave a comment, at me on Twitter, or email me with your suggestion at ed40plays@gmail.com. Next up is Johto. Catch you all there!